What if I told you that trying to be the perfect candidate is exactly what is getting you rejected? It sounds counterintuitive, right? We've all been taught to polish our resumes perfectly, to match them to the position description, and check every box, and have a flawless answer for every question that we're asked. But here's the secret. Hiring managers are actually afraid of candidates that check every box and show up perfectly spit-shined polished, because they actually prefer people with a little bit of flaw to them, so they know what the flaws are. Because if you show up as the perfect candidate and you are flawless and perfect and ideal, well, they know it's a mask. They just don't know what's underneath of it anymore, and that's what makes them nervous. Welcome into the channel. My name is Tom. I'm the founder of Vertical Motion. We help good people become great leaders. We teach people how to move up in their career the right way, without manipulation, without politics, without being a liar. We teach you how to do it the right way. So if you learn more, there's a link down below in the description. And consider subscribing to our channel. We're at about 5,000 subscribers right now. I'd love to get to 10,000 this year. And so hopefully you can help us get there and spread the message that we have to share here. Today what we're talking about is why the perfect candidate is a myth. So the reality is that companies will reject candidates that look perfect on paper because they're not quite sure what they're getting. Because if they see some flaws, like they see that you're missing this and that and the other, they know what areas they need to work on, and they can decide if those are areas that can be trained up over time. But if you show up perfect, they know you're wearing a mask. They just don't know what's underneath of the mask. Position descriptions are typically like a fantasy version of the role. They want someone to have all of these skills, right? Like great with communication skills and navigating sales, but also being really great at spreadsheets and detail-oriented work for hours on end. You're not going to find both sets of skills in the same person very often. And if they're both listed on a position description, it's because different people have different ideas of what that role should be. When I was applying for a role, it was an executive position. There's about 20 points on the position description, and I hit like 17 of them. There were 3. I just had no experience in certain areas. I had no skill. I wasn't qualified according to those 3 bullet points, but the other 17, I was pretty well qualified for. And when I met the hiring manager, that's when I talked about what I didn't know how to do. Like, I don't know how to do this, this, and this. And he's like, that's all right, we'll teach you. Having that self-awareness of what you can and can't do actually shines in this opportunity, in this way of presenting yourself through the resume and also through the interview process. Hiring managers want to see that you have the ability to grow into a higher level role, especially executive roles. Like if you don't have a certain set of skills, but you demonstrate the aptitude and ability to learn those skills, that's way more interesting than someone who shows up with all of the skills already mastered and you're not quite sure just how real they're being. Which kind of brings me to my second point here, which is that hiring is a human process. AI screens the resumes. We use AI to create the resumes. That's all true. But at the end of the day, it's a human hiring a human. A person decides who they bring into an organization. And that decision is an emotional one because every human decision that's made is emotional. Now, we justify several of our decisions with logic and data and fact. True, yes. But the decision is an emotional one. And at the end of the day, there's all these little nuances that influence a decision more than the data may suggest. So for example, a perfect candidate who has all of the skills, but then kind of shows up a little bit cold or disassociated or disconnected, versus someone who doesn't have quite all of the skills, they're like 85%, but they're warm, enthusiastic, empathetic, and easily connecting with the people around them. Guess which one's going to get hired? Because interviews are more like conversations, not interrogations. They're meant to be like finding out how you would act and respond in the weekly staff meeting, for example. Like, how are you going to show up inside of that culture? And so there's all these little things that have nothing to do with hard skills that actually move the needle way more than you think. Which also brings me to point number 3, which is when you put your resume into a company, it's not other resumes that you're competing against. You're not competing against other resumes. You're competing against other people's relationships. At the end of the day, how well does the hiring manager know you versus the other 5, 6, 7 candidates that they have been talking to? If one of those candidates was a referral from somebody that that hiring manager implicitly trusts, chances are, as all things being equal, they're going to go with that candidate. So what is your relationship to the hiring manager, to the company, to people in between, intermediaries that you both know? So a strong relationship can create momentum in the hiring process for you if you have that strong relationship. Well, how do you get that strong relationship? Networking. It's as simple as putting yourself out there and connecting with people, both online and in real life. Go to conferences, trade shows, events, go to customer meetings, go meet people. I know introverts hate this, but at the end of the day, you have to do it because you're not competing against someone else's resume, all of the things that they know how to do versus what you know how to do, and you know how to do them better. That's not what gets you hired, especially at the executive level. Relationships. If they know, like, and trust you more than the other candidates, all things being equal, they're going to hire you. And in some cases, if they know, like, and trust you, and your skills are less than somebody that they don't know, that they don't like, that they might not trust, even though they have all of the check marks ticked on their resume, they're still going to choose you, almost certainly, because hiring is human. So you need to become a known, trusted person, and you can use connections in your network to help bolster that know, like, and trust capability. Because the worst case scenario here is that you are the best resume in a pile of resumes and nobody knows anything about you. And one of the most important things you can do when you are applying for a role, you find an organization and a role that's perfectly suited for you, or so it seems. Well, make sure that your LinkedIn and your resume are really polished as a tight, cohesive brand. A resume is a marketing document. It is important that it is factually accurate, but it doesn't have to be a chronological listing of all of the things you've ever done. Instead, you want to be focusing on demonstrating the outcomes that you had, not the responsibilities that you had in the past. What is an outcome? So, for example, the highlight of one of my resumes is I closed a $721 million ACAT level 1 contract when I worked at General Dynamics. That's a pretty important point if I'm trying to get a business development role in the defense industry. I wasn't responsible for business development capture for ACAT level 1 programs with the U.S. Army. No, I completed this thing. It happened. I just talk about the result, the outcome, not the responsibility. And you should have a case study of things that you've done, some like documents that explain in your feature section of LinkedIn, things that you have done. So your brand should reflect what you have been able to accomplish in your career across your resume and your LinkedIn profile and your LinkedIn content. And having a cohesive brand is a really important element of all of this. If you want to build trust with someone quickly, have thought leadership pieces talking about the problem that you are trying to solve for them in that new position. And so you talking about a specific problem over and over and over again, that's actually empowering. It gets people to like, okay, this person knows this stuff, and they start to know you because if you're doing this right, you're sharing your rationale and thinking for how you came to a solution. And we have programs at Vertical Motion where we teach you how to put this brand strategy to work, how you put yourself out, this cohesive, attractive character that attracts people to you. If you want to learn more about that, there's a link down below in the description, but check out our Elevate program, which is a monthly subscription program to access some of the things that we teach our $10,000 coaching clients. So if you want to learn more about that, click the link down below in the description. So how do you win a role when you're not a perfect fit for it, but you feel like this would be a great role for you or a great organization to be in? Well, first of all, stop screening yourself out because you don't hit all of the bullet points. As we talked about earlier, bullet points in a position description are typically a kitchen sink of things that people want, usually massaged by AI on the back end. So really, you're not ever going to match up perfectly with any position description. You might get 75% of the way there, and that's enough. You apply showing that you have the right core skills and the right attitude and the aptitude to learn on the job. Demonstrate that you can quickly adapt. And be honest about your gaps when you don't know something. Like if you've never done M&A and M&A is one of the skills that they're expecting, we'll say, well, I've never done M&A, but I've also been researching and I'm excited to dive in and learn more. And always, always, always position yourself as somebody who can and wants to solve a very specific problem that is the core of the position in the position description. If you demonstrate yourself as a solution to a problem, even if you're not the perfect solution, you're going to go further than trying to pretend like you are. So perfection shouldn't be your goal here. Credibility, connection, and alignment is what you're trying to demonstrate. The best candidates are usually not what looks like the perfect candidate on paper. The best candidates are the ones that build connection, empathetic connection between them and the hiring team, and demonstrate that they have the ability to grow into and beyond that role. And so remember that when you have this perfect resume that hits all 20 of 20 points from the position description, if you don't have the relationship that someone else has that's in the running, it doesn't matter how perfect your resume is. Those relationships are critical. And so if you focus on the relationship aspect, your connections to the people, putting yourself out there, even if it's just in writing on LinkedIn, that's going to move the needle more than you might think. So don't try to be the perfect candidate. Just be the most authentic one. I hope this video was helpful to you, and I'll see you in another one soon.